Hi everybody, this is Casey at Upcycled Island, and today I've got a project for you. We're going to take a man's shirt and turn it into a lady's peasant top. The top is going to have elastic at the neck and at the sleeves. We're going to flip the shirt around so the back of the peasant top is the front of the shirt, of the men's shirt. So we just turn the shirt around. And I'm going to show you how we did that. We're going to be, I'll give you a preview. I had a boo-boo. This is the shirt we're going to be working on today. And I was filming and I made a boo-boo. And so I've already cut the neck out of this. But I want to show you how to do that. So on this shirt, I'm going to show you how we prepare the new neckline in the shirt. Try your shirt on backwards and measure from the neckline, which is, you have your collar and then the placket that the collar is attached to, and that is your neckline where it is attached to the shirt. From that, measure when you have it on, when you have the shirt on backwards, where you want your neckline to start. And I tried it on and I wanted my neckline to be 6 inches from this original shirt neckline. So I measure 6 inches from there and make a mark. And then a little further down, a couple inches over, cattywampus. I put the tape cattywampus and I measure 4 inches and do that on the other side. Four inches. And then I'm going to join those lines. I'm just using chalk, sewing chalk, and just continue those lines to the shoulder. Now I'm going to check and see how I did from the neckline at the shoulder. I've got like 2 inches, and I've got like 2 inches over here. So I did it pretty even. And now we're going to cut our new neckline. So we're just going to cut through both layers along our new neckline we've just drawn. So there's your new neckline. Okay, now since we have our shirt spread out, is a good time to cut off your sleeve. If you have a short sleeve shirt, you don't have to do that. You can just fold over the existing hem on the short sleeve shirt and use that as your casing for your elastic. A long sleeve shirt, when I tried the shirt on, I determined that from the shoulder seam, I wanted my sleeve to be like 8 inches, so I'm going to cut 9 inches. So I've measured 9 inches. I'm just going to cut across the sleeve. So we've got our neckline prepared. We cut off our sleeves. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure our buttons are all buttoned. And I'm going to sew this shut. My neckline is big enough. I'm going to have elastic. I'll be able to put my head through it. And I don't want to deal with the buttons coming unbuttoned or buttons falling off. So I'm going to sew my button placket shut. And an easy way to do that is to pin it. We have our buttons, but in between, when you're sewing, that can pull. So you want to pin that shut. So in between the buttons, pin. And what I did is I put my ruler between the two layers, between the front and back of that shirt, and I'm just pinning in between the buttons to make sure it all stays in place when I take it to the sewing machine. And so we're all pinned and ready to go to the sewing machine. We are going to top stitch that placket closed. And what I mean by that is we're going to top stitch along the edge of the placket on this side all the way down, and then we're going to do the same thing here on this side all the way down, just a top stitch. I'm going to give you another hint, an easy way to do that is to turn your shirt wrong side out and take it to the machine like this. Your back of your shirt is going to be facing you. You're going to pull the back of the shirt back out of the way. And then you're going to start sewing, and you're going to top stitch along this edge, and as you go you'll pull this back and top stitch and pull that back out of the way. And then you'll do the same thing when you do the other side. You'll top stitch, pull this out of the way, top stitch, just move it out of the way. That is the easiest way that I have found to top stitch that placket closed. And it is easier to do it after you cut the new neckline than before. Also, this is a good time to take off your pocket if you want to. I prefer to take my pocket off. I just thought having a pocket in the back of my shirt would be distracting, so I took it off. Just use your seam ripper and very, very carefully remove the pocket so you won't tear the fabric. So now here's the real shirt. We'll put the stand-in shirt away, and here's our real shirt. And the next thing we're going to do is prepare the neckline. This is the front of my new blouse. And we're going to use bias binding. This is a sheet. I have a sheet that I don't use anymore. It's perfectly good. It doesn't have stains, so I made bias strips. I use that sheet to make bias strips. When you upcycle, you are going to find that you're not going to have enough fabric to do some of the things you want to do. And so putting a bias binding on this, I'm going to use quite a bit of fabric, and so I'm using my sheet. So I have two pieces that I have sewed together, and we're going to fold it over in half. Fold it in half, and we're going to press it. We have our binding prepared. And to get your shirt, going to go to the shoulder seam. On the front of the men's shirt, you have a seam at the shoulder, and this is where the yoke, the men's yoke, was. So this one closest to the front of the men's shirt, that's what we're going to call our shoulder seam, and that's where we're going to start attaching our binding. And so we're going to take the raw edge of the binding and put it, this is the right side of the shirt or blouse, so right sides together, and we're going to pin that. I put a pin at the shoulder just so I'll know that's where I started. And then you can use pins or you can use clips. And we're going to clip it or pin it all the way around. we've come back all the way around to where we started at that shoulder seam. I'm going to hold it together, and that's where my seam is going to be. And I'm going to make a pencil mark on each side. I do that, I make a mark. Now what we're going to do is open these up. I removed a few of the pins on either side. We're going to open this up and open this one up. And we're going to put right sides together, and then we're going to match up the marks. And that's where we're going to make our seam, right across there. Okay, we have sewn it together, and we're just going to pin it back in the places where we had removed, or clip it where we had removed the clips. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew the binding on. All right, we have our binding on. And now we're ready to make the casing, or the channel that we're going to use to put the elastic in. I want my casing to be 1 inch wide. So I'm going to use my little hammer. If you don't have one, put this on your list of things to get, because it does speed things up. If you don't have one, you can use a regular ruler, but this just is handy to hold. And so I'm going to just use clips, and I'm going to go all the way around and clip this so it's 1 inch wide. We're going to do that all the way around. Okay, we have it clipped. You can use clips or pins all the way around. So we have our channel, or our casing, is 1 inch. It's a little wide. 1 inch wide. Now, you are asking, if you're asking, well, we're only using 3/8 inch elastic. Why do we need 1 inch? There's several reasons. We want to fold over some fabric, so when it gathers up at your neck, that white will not come flashing out. You'll see just fabric, because you'll see a little teeny pieces of the underneath here and there when it's gathered up. And you're going to be stitching on the edge of the bias tape, and also you're going to top stitch along the folded edge. You top stick along the folded edge, so this thing, once you put the elastic in, won't roll over and stay in place. This will turn out much neater. So you're going to have 2 lines of stitching, and that's going to narrow that 1 inch. So your 3/8 inch is going to fit in there with just a little room, not a whole lot of play, and that's exactly what you want. Now, when you top stitch along the folded edge, you're going all the way around. When you stitch down the edge of the bias tape, the bias binding, you're going to leave an opening. I'm going to leave mine at my shoulder seam, where this yoke is between those 2 seams. I'm going to leave my opening there. So I'm going to put a pin there to remind me to leave an opening. Now the opening doesn't need to be very big, just enough to get the elastic in there. So I would say your opening doesn't need to be more than 1 inch. So that means you're going to start stitching here, go all the way around, and stop stitching here. Leave yourself an opening. Alrighty, we have got our casing finished. How much elastic do we need? We need to measure that. What we do is we hold it up to us. So here's my elastic, and I have this shirt that I've already done, so I'm going to use it as an example. But I just have the elastic draped around what the neckline would be. And then I'm going to add quite a bit, like 4 or 5 inches. And the reason I'm doing that is you'd rather have too much than not enough. So we're going to insert the elastic, and then we're going to test it for stretch your elastic a little bit. Then we're going to test it to see what adjustment we need to make and how long we use it. I have this big safety pin, and I insert the safety pin down here and then again up towards the edge and close my safety pin. I know y'all how to use this, but if somebody new may not, so we're going to give them a hint. All right, let me find my opening, this shoulder. And we're going to insert the elastic. So that opening doesn't need to be very big. And just keep pushing it in there and pulling it through. Now, I would, if I were you, for safety's sake, I'm going to pin the other end of the elastic to the shirt so I won't inadvertently pull it through and then have to start all over again. So just keep putting that elastic through your shirt. And this is a great time for me to tell you to please like and share this video and to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also on Facebook and Instagram. I haven't got the hang of Instagram yet, so I don't have much there. And I'll give you a shameless plug for my Etsy shop, which is upcycledisland.etsy.com. Okay, here we are. We're pulling our elastic through. And then we're going to put these two together. When you get the elastic through, tie the two ends together before you start fidgeting with the elastic and distributing the gathers. And that way it's not going to go inside your casing, all of it. And if it does, you'll be able to fish it out. Okay, I need some more gathers, so I'm going to tighten that. So I'm going to pin that. Where I think I'm going to want it. And work with it again. And yes, I like those gathers better. So that's the front of the shirt. I like those gathers better. So I'm going to undo this. I'm going to clip off this extra, and I'm going to overlap about an inch, 3/4 of an inch to an inch. I'm going to overlap that. I'm going to sew the elastic together. Now you can use a zigzag stitch, which is probably preferable, but this machine I'm using is straight stitch only. So I'm going to straight stitch and just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and make sure you catch the edges of the elastic when you're doing that, so it will glide through the casing smoothly. It won't get hung up. All right, I've got my elastic joined, and I just pulled it until it slipped inside the opening. And since my opening is so small, I'm not even going to worry about closing it right now. It sometimes depends on the kind of elastic you have. Sometimes it'll stretch too much, and if that's open, if it's small enough and doesn't bother anything, you can leave it open, and then you can pull your elastic out and cut it and rejoin it and shorten it. So I'm going to do that for now. Just leave it open, the opening open. Now we're ready to make a casing in your sleeves, and all you're going to do is fold over a tiny bit and press, and then fold over so you'll have an inch, and then press that. You can fold it and press as you go. You can pin it and then press it, whatever's easiest for you. You're going to make a casing, a 1-inch casing on each sleeve, and you're going to run your elastic through that. Okay, we've got our sleeves prepared. We have our casing prepared, and we've left an opening for our elastic, so we're ready to put elastic in. We need to measure for the elastic. This is easy. You're just going to measure your arm right there where the elastic band is going to go. Elastic around your arm, and where it meets, that's where you cut. I do not add for the fold over. The elastic is going to stretch enough that I have found through the years that by not adding the fold over amount, that it comes out just fine. Alrighty, we have our elastic inserted, and I left my opening open. I didn't sew that shut. My elastic, I think, is already stretched, so I'm probably going to go pull that out and make my elastic smaller. So that's one reason to make your opening not very large at all, just enough to get the elastic in there. Then you don't have to close it up, and if you need to adjust the elastic, you'll be able to do that. Now, all we have to do is decide how to finish off the hem. If you like your shirts long, then you can just use the hem of the man's shirt. If you want to have it bassoon, you can cut it straight across, make a casing, and put elastic in the waist, and then it'll bloom out. I like to have my tops straight across. Okie dokie, we're done. I have the elastic in the sleeves. I did go back and tighten the elastic. It was a little bit too loose. And then the neck is fine. And I did a plain hem on the bottom. I had taken the shirt in on the sides. It was just too big and blousy for me, for my personal preference. So I took the sides in. And here's the back. The button placket is in the back. And so there is your peasant blouse from a man's shirt. I hope that was helpful to you. And I hope you'll make your own and share with us how it went. I'll see you next time. Stay safe.